Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling.
No problem. Thanks for taking a few minutes. I know you got a busy weekend ahead. Talk about your emotions this weekend. Obviously, you're used to this, playing for championships. Maybe some of these kids aren't quite as used to it. How do you approach this game? And obviously, this is a rematch from last year's semifinals. Does any of that carry over with these guys, or is it just kind of a new season for them?
Well, I think after last year, basically, we never make excuses, that you have a young team and stuff like that. But, I would have to change that a little bit. Last year, just, Jada Byers was just a freshman, and our offensive line were all sophomores, and we had 2 seniors on it. And, everybody else was pretty much underclassmen. And, we did the best we can. We lost 4 games. 2 were in overtime. Well, 1 was in double overtime. Yep. And, I think we learned a lot from that, is that, you got to play every play, and you got to practice every day like it's your last. And, basically, I think in the off season these kids realized it. And, we're still a very young team, believe it or not. We have 1 senior on the offensive line, and, we have 1, 2, 3 maybe seniors on defense. So, I knew we would mature. I didn't think we'd mature this fast, but it's amazing what a year difference it makes when kids grow up. And, I learned a lot from that too. So.
And that was a great team you guys played last year. That when you talk about Mater Dei, I mean, I know they graduated some of their really good players from last year, but last year's team was really an outstanding team. I saw them in the championship game against Holy Spirit, and they were tough to stop. And obviously they got some weapons returning in the quarterback George Pearson and the running back Ingram. So you guys got your work cut out for in stopping that offense for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? When we look back to last year, they had 40 yards rushing on the day, or 50 yards rushing on the day. They had 83 yards passing. 2 of them were big passes early in the game, end of the first quarter, early second quarter, and they were both over top of a freshman that was pretty much draped all over him, Jada Byers. So, he's grown up a lot, and they had a great team last year, and there's people that you talk to think they're a little better this year or just as good as last year. So we're going to have our work cut out for them, and we tell our kids all week long. We talk to them at the end of every practice, is that listen, cut out the mistakes, the penalties, and the turnovers, and we'll be right in the game. We cannot go to Rowan tomorrow and do what we did when we went down to Holy Spirit, dig yourself a hole because you're kind of overwhelmed in the first quarter. Next thing you know, you're down 13-14 to nothing, and the game's swinging back and forth. So, we got to play from start to finish and not make mistakes and just stay composed. So,
Coach, do you see anything differently on film heading into this year's game as opposed to last year from Mater Dei?
Well, you know what? There's still a team that pretty much relies big time on that quarterback. He's a great quarterback. He's like the quarterback from Holy Spirit, Samat. The kid's got a cannon for an arm. The kid can run. He's a little bit over 200 pounds. He stands tall in the pocket, and our whole thing is that we just can't let him run all over the field and can't give him all this time to sit back there with the type of receivers that he has.
Yeah, that's a great point, Coach. You're definitely going to need some pass rush because this is a guy that can sit back there, and he's a guy that can make that 20, 25-yard out pass. Not a lot of high school quarterbacks can throw the ball that far on a dime and hit that receiver on the sideline. So, like you said, definitely getting a pass rush, I think, is going to be a huge key to this game.
Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty good at that all year long, and we're going to hope to maintain that tomorrow. And, our defensive backs, if we've had they've been a lot better the second half of the season, but if we've had some breakdowns, it's been back there. That's what I think worries us the most. Immaculata, they were a pretty good team, believe it or not. They had good skilled kids. The quarterback's a good player, and we kind of fell asleep back there a few times and cost us a couple touchdowns and also penalties. So, you don't want to put them in a position basically where it's third down, They're turning it over. They got a punt. Now they got a first down because a silly penalty and that kind of stuff. So, but now on film, I've seen them enough now. I'm actually tired of watching them on film. And, you can only watch so much film. And every day you watch it, you have different feelings toward it. So.
Yeah, that's a great point, Coach. At what point do you say, okay, we've watched enough film and it's more about what we do, what we control?
Well, I think we finally, we tried not to make the mistake that we made a few years back where, we got right to work 2 weeks before, we were playing in the finals. And, by the end of that week, the kids were like, ugh.
Yeah.
And this year we pretty much did a lot of film study. We just went back to basics, on the things we knew we needed to get better on offensive and defensively. And then, on Monday we got back to work with this team. And in all honesty, by Wednesday, and we have the extra day, and we're practicing this morning, pregame, the kids were pretty much, middle of the week where you could just see, not that you were starting to lose them, but they were tired and ready to play.
Yeah.
It's a long season, so we didn't have a bye. We told the kids, we set these guys up in the preseason with 4 or 5 of the best teams around. You got Long Branch, I think, is in the finals. You got Paramus Catholics, one of the top teams in the state. Timber Creek, Shawnee, and Millville. We put them up against the best around for a reason. To get them to grow up. And I think looking back, and we told the kids is that, they did what they had to do in those scrimmages. So I think, way back, that time of year, August, we knew this team could, be somewhat special, because we put them up against the best, even though they were still young, and, they did a great job. So.
Talking with Coach Paul Sacco from St. Joe Hamilton. And Coach, you mentioned how young this team is, but you do have a couple of really key seniors. And talk about those guys a little bit, especially guys like Townsell, who's really taken on the role of leadership, along with a couple of those other guys. Well,
Q has just made such a big improvement from his junior year, and I think it credits him in the off season, that he spent, other than the days we're in the weight room, he spent time bettering his, sports-specific skills, basically, running and jumping and things like that. So you can see the improvement he's made. He's been the workhorse. We told him this week, you just got to run straight ahead and do what you've done in some of the big games this year, and we'll be fine. So, and then you got the senior right tackle, Deshaun Birch, has had a very good year coming off his junior year, and Sincere Tapp has been a starter for us for 3 years, and even though he's been plagued by injuries the last couple of years, he seems to amaze us with he comes ready to play, comes ready to practice, and whether he's gimping around or not, he's doing a great job. And so in C.J. Parrish in the secondary, he's the only senior we have back there, and he's done a great job for us this year. He led the league last year with 6 or 7 interceptions. I think he has 4 this year. So you're going to miss those guys, and but people have to remember somebody's going to fill in for him, and we got good young players. So.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Tapp. I remember seeing him as a sophomore and just saying, man, this guy's going to be fun to watch the next couple of years. I know he's been a little bit hampered with injuries, but when he's out there, he's definitely a force on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, we're hoping that he comes up real big. He did in the St. Augustine game. He did in the Holy Spirit game. He did in the Allentown game. So he seems to always come up big, and we're hoping that he stays healthy enough tomorrow and gets it done for us.
Now, Coach, real quick before we let you go, you've had so many championship pregame speeches. What are you going to pull out for this game? Anything special, or are you just going to go with the what's worked in the past?
I think, sir, basically, if it's not broke, why try to fix it? I'm not a cheerleader when it comes to a coach. I just try to, remain calm, and I think that was the biggest improvement on my part this year at halftime. There was times when we were down in games, and I said, there's really no sense in hollering and screaming and throwing things around.
Right.
You got to remember these kids are kids, and And there's kids that are out there that are 14, 15 years old, the Vocalas kid and some of the other kids, the Byers kid, and, I'm not going to be any help to them if I'm ranting and raving. So, and some new coaches on our staff this year have played a big part in things and that really relate real well to the kids.
Wait a minute, a kinder, gentler Coach Sacco? Is that for real?
Yeah, I think as you've spent as many years as I have doing this, maybe it's just getting tired. I don't know, but try to be a little bit. I think I'm pretty much the same, though. In all honesty, I just try to, look at things a little bit different now after 36 seasons.
Great stuff, Coach. We appreciate you taking a few minutes, and good luck tomorrow, man.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate talking to you guys, and have a good day.
All right, have a good one, man.
Bye.
That was legendary Coach Paul Sacco from St. Joe Hamilton, and always a fun guy to talk football with.